Hi everyone, I'm Molly. Today I'm going to show you how to make Prince Quilliam, this gorgeous little hedgehog stuffy. If you have downloaded the pattern for Prince Quilliam, you will see the following pattern pieces in your instructions. So let me show you what we've cut here. Out of felt, we've cut one Prince Quilliam tummy. We've cut one Prince Quilliam face. We've cut 2 Prince Quilliam ears, 1 cute little tail, 4 legs, and then out of fabric, we've cut 2 Prince Quilliam body pieces. In addition to your fabric and your felt, you're going to need 3 buttons, 2 for the eyes and 1 for the nose. You'll need embroidery needles with embroidery floss, pins, chalk pencils and a regular pencil, and of course your scissors and perhaps a seam rubber. The first thing we're going to do for Prince Quilliam is to mark all of the placement dots, notches, and lines on the pattern piece. And this is something that you don't want to forget with this project because there are so many spots where we have to match up legs and ears and the face to the body. So we're going to start with that first. Over on the tummy, anytime you see one of these long straight lines, we're going to use those to make a chalk mark. So I'll start over here and just shift the pattern slightly from the edge of the felt and use a chalk pencil to mark a small placement line. I'll do the same here. And here. And then here. So now I have 4 lines, each of which will match a leg. Great. I'm going to do the same with my face. I'll just put my buttons away from that for now. And I have on the face these 2 lines, one here and one here. I'm going to mark this, mark that, and then the same on my ears. And if you're sewing with someone who's pretty young, you might need to help them with this step. Sometimes it can be hard to keep the paper from shifting. The legs. Okay. So now that I have all my lines marked, I'm going to work on making my notches. When you have a triangle on your pattern, a dark triangle, that means that you clip a little notch into it with your scissors. So I've got one here and then one on my tail. They correspond with each other. So just make a little notch there through both layers of my fabric. And then there's another one here in my tail. Okay, so notches are made, lines are marked, and now I'm going to mark the dots that are on my pattern. I have on the body piece 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots that I have to mark on one piece of fabric only, the fabric that you want for his front. And then on the face piece, I have 2 dots that I want to mark for my eye. This extra dot marks the nose, but it's so close to the tip there that I'll just know it's there and I won't mark it for now. So I'm going to poke through each hole with a slightly sharper pencil. There's different ways you can do this, but this is the one that I sort of find the easiest if you don't mind ripping apart your pattern a little bit. And I've got the right side of my fabric facing up. I'm just going to find a color that I think will show up here. I think pink will work. And make a mark at every circle. So I've got them here, 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 and here. And those are just gonna help us attach our body later so that it's in the right position. And then the same with the eyes here. And if you want, you could mark that nose. I would just do this and put it right on the bottom. Okay. I'll do those in white just to make them a little darker. All right. So now that we have all of our pieces marked, we're going to start constructing the face. I'm going to put away my body pieces, my leg pieces, my ear, and my tail for the moment, and focus on the face. So here's Prince Quilliam's face. He's so adorable. I'm going to take this face piece and just raise it so that the curve on the top of the body matches the curve on the top of the face. And then I'm going to pin the lower part of the face only in place to the body. And I love the way felt just sort of sticks to itself, so it's very easy to pin. All right, once we have him pinned, I'm going to do a top stitch or an edge stitch right along that bottom curve only. So I'm not attaching this part for the moment because I have to insert the ears in here later. For now, I'm just going to stitch along this lower curve pretty close to the edge. Start with the back stitch. Take out pins that I know I'm going to have a hard time going around. You can always take out every pin as you go. Sometimes you will hit a pin and break your needle. Okay, so I've got my face stitched on the lower curve. And now it's time to add my cute eyes and my nose. So I've got my buttons already picked out for that. These are my eyes and this is my nose. Just take one of my needles threaded with embroidery floss, and I'm just gonna start with an eye. So I've got my mark here. It's sort of hard to see on camera. I'll make it blue. I'm going to go in from the back. I've got a knot already tied in my thread. These are fairly small buttons and this thread is pretty heavy and strong, so I don't think I'm gonna go through more than twice through each opening in the button. So I've gone across twice on one of them, and now I'm going across on the other one twice. Okay. All right, and then I'll just tie my thread off. So I make a circle, I pop, it's like making a balloon, I pop the balloon from the back Pull down my knot and pull. Do that again. Cut my thread. I'll make a new knot. And then move on to my other eye. So same thing through the back. In one opening, through the one across, do that twice. All right, so tie this one off, make a loop, pop the balloon. Okay, I need a new thread, so I'll pick another needle. And now I'm on to my nose. I'm going to go up through just where it's about where my stitching meets. It kind of peaks at the bottom where I made my pivot. And through my button. When we decided to name this pattern Prince Quilliam, we all got a real kick out of it. I think he's one of our favorite stuffies to date. Very royal hedgehog. Okay, so that's my last button. Tie it off, make a loop, come through the back, make that balloon, pop the balloon, and trim. Okay, so now we have our face complete with our nose and our two eyes. We're going to begin attaching the tummy to the body. So we'll just be using one piece of the cut fabric. And this is where your marks come in. So in that first step, I marked the placement dots on the pattern piece of the body. Those are going to now correspond with the lower and higher points of the body. So I'm taking the top two marks and matching them up with the peaks of the eyebrows. And then I'm using the marks on the bottom to just line up the rounded edge of the tummy. So I have the edge matching that dot, the edge matching that dot, the edge matching that dot, and the edges matching these dots up here. Once I have those in, I'm going to go ahead and put a few pins in. So this is just going to secure the tummy to the body before I have to put in the legs and the ears. So notice that I have not pinned where I made my marks earlier for the legs and the ears. So here, 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 and here, I've not pinned to make room for the legs. And then here and here, where I marked the placement for my ears, I've also left unpinned. And now I can start inserting my legs. So I have the mark made on my leg and then the mark made on the tummy, and I'm just going to slip the leg underneath the tummy by approximately ½ an inch. We want it tucked up enough that when we stitch, it's going to catch it from the back. And I'll just place a pin there to keep that caught. I'll do the same here. I'm matching this line with this line, tucking it under about ½ inch. And then The same with these legs here. Okay, and now I have to build my ears. So my ears are these bigger pieces. So I'm gonna take the two edges of the lower edges of my ears, and I'm just gonna fold them up slightly so that I form a little open triangle at the bottom. I'm gonna put a pin in, and then do the same with this one. So I'm coming up about center, maybe a little over center. And I'm gonna just stitch across to hold those in place. So I'm at my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I have my 1/2 inch marked in red tape. I don't need to backstitch this, it's just a basting stitch. A basting stitch is just a stitch that holds things in place until you put your permanent stitch on. And now I can put those ears in. Just trimming my threads. This is one of those projects that if you don't trim as you go, you can kind of end up with threads all over the place. So I've got my mark, my placement here for my ear. I'm gonna line up the center of the ear with that line. I want my stitching that I just did to be hidden underneath, just by a little bit. And I think the ear is when it kind of all comes together and it just looks really, really cute. I love it. Now he looks like a little hedgehog. Or maybe it's a girl. All right. Once I've got all of my legs and ears pinned, I'm going to do another top stitch or an edge stitch all the way around the perimeter of the tummy piece. It doesn't really matter where you start, but this is going to be a permanent stitch holding all of this together. So I'm going pretty close to the edge. Pivot at the top. Okay, my tummy is on. And now it is time to start building our stuffies back and front together so that we can flip him out and stuff him. I'm going to, just to make sure that I don't end up catching any of the legs or ears into the seam allowance when I sew, I'm going to flip them inside and pin them down just to avoid them getting caught. When you go to flip, remember that you've got these pins in there. You don't want to reach in and come out with a pin in your finger. All right, so I have everything tucked in. I'm going to do one last step and attach my tail before I attach the back of the body. The notch on the tail corresponds with the notch that you made in the bottom of the body I'm just going to take that notch and match it with the other notch so that the tail is pointing towards the tummy. And I want to do a little stitch to secure that. I'm going to do this a little shy of my 1/2 inch seam allowance. So my my tail is in. And now I'm taking the back piece and I'm going to put it right sides together with the front piece. So the right sides will be touching. Can line up the notch I made on the back piece with the notch on the tail. Flatten everything out. And then I'm just gonna start pinning around the perimeter, but I do want to leave an opening on one of the sides. So I'm gonna choose to leave my opening on this side right here. It's really better not to leave your opening on a really sharp curve like the top. So I'm leaving about 3 inches, just enough that I can flip all my fabric through. Whenever you have curves like this, you want to pin a little more closely together than when you're pinning straight edges, because when you're sewing curves, they tend to shift. The layers tend to separate and shift from each other. All right. I've got my double pins marking the opening that I'm leaving. I'm going to start here, sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and end here, making sure I backstitch at the start and the end. I'm lining up the cut edge of my fabric with my 1/2 inch seam allowance. It's really not a good idea to sew over your double pins, so I'm taking those out. Reaching my second set of double pins, so that's my sign to do a back stitch. And remove my pins. Okay. Before I flip, I'm going to trim a few notches into the border, the seam allowance of the body, just to ensure that when things flip, they flip a little more smoothly. This is something that with a younger sewer, you're going to want to probably do for them, because the tendency is to end up cutting too far and cut into the stitching, which is a bummer after you've done all this work. So I'm going to do it on this curve, this curve. You could go ahead and do it around the whole pattern, but I really need it more where the curve sort of peaks. And then definitely over here. You don't want to make notches where you've left your opening. So again, not notching here where I've left my opening. And now comes the fun part. I'm gonna reach in and start flipping. Remember, you put those pins in, you wanna be careful of those. Pull them out as I see them. Okay, I've got my 6 pins out, and now I can reach my hand in and just start smoothing out my edges. Okay, looking like a nice little hedgehog, Prince Quilliam. I'm gonna go grab some stuffing and be right back to stuff him. Okay, I'm back with my stuffing and we're gonna go ahead and get down to business. So the best way to stuff is to just take a little handful of your stuffing, even though it can get very exciting and you wanna put all of it in at once. Just take a little handful and pop it in and just keep going. You want to go until it feels really firm. I think Prince Quilliam is a fully stuffed little hedgehog, so now we're going to close the opening that we left with a whip stitch. And if you want a more detailed video on how to do a whip stitch, you can go to our Sewcabulary page, and we have a how to do a whip stitch video. I'm gonna just take the 2 edges. I'm tucking that raw edge, that cut edge of my fabric into the body and just setting some pins in so that it stays together while I sew. Then I want to take my thread, so I tie a knot in my thread and I'm going to hide the knot inside. And again, there's a more detailed video of this on our Sewcabulary page. So I want to take the tail and just tuck it in there. And then I'm just gonna keep, for whip stitch, we just always come in the same side. So I always come in from the top and enter out the bottom. I can take the pins out as I get to them. This is a little more difficult for young sewers. You may have to hold it for them and help them with the needle. So sometimes we'll hold it like this and let them whip stitch. And when I get to the end, I'm going to tie this off with a knot. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna do a stitch in the same place a few times to secure it. And then I will make a knot. So pop that balloon, make a loop, pop my balloon, maybe one more for good measure, and then I'll go back through the opening, pull my thread, and cut my tail. And you have your finished Prince Quilliam hedgehog. You can share what you make with us on our Instagram page at SEWSHOPJUNIOR, and we really can't wait to see your adorable Prince Quilliam stuffies. Thanks, bye.